I thought we'd create a colour chart for a predominantly yellow palette. You will need your 3 primaries, cadmium yellow, cadmium red, ultramarine blue, a clean palette knife, some brushes and a rag, some terps, a palette, a surface to work on, and I have marked my colour chart off with tape, but you can just draw it on or just dab the mixes onto a piece of paper or similar. Predominantly, our palette is going to be yellow. So we're going to take a large chunk of yellow to start with, and we're going to mix up some different values. We want to create a dark, medium and light as a bare minimum. I'm also going to create a slightly warmer value, this very first one I've mixed, by mixing some cadmium red into the yellow. And then I'm going to go into my lighter values. The one in the middle is just pure cadmium. And so now I'm mixing a slightly lighter value of cadmium with some white. I think I'm using titanium white here. And then a lighter one again, which is going to be used mostly for our highlights. The next stage is to mix up some neutrals. And this is what we'll be using as the shadow colours. So what I want to create is a band of warm neutrals and a band of cool neutrals. Predominantly they're going to be yellow because they're going to be quite high value. So on the grey scale, they'll be closer to grey than black, light grey, because daffodils are quite light in colour. So even their shadows are going to be quite light. We don't want to make those values really dark. Once I've mixed up a basic value, I'm going to split it in two, and then I'm going to add blue to one to have a cooler value and red to the other side so that I've got a warmer value. From this, we can take a little bit of each band and add more yellow to create the same tones, the same colours, but lighter. What we don't want to do is add white to our shadow colours, because that will make it opaque and we'll lose that transparency in the shadow and make it chalky. So I'm only adding extra yellow and mixing it up carefully. I also want to create a much darker value, and this will be used for the very darkest points on the internal stamens, I think they're called, in the middle of a daffodil, the very centre of the trumpet, and that is the darkest value I can see on my reference photo. So I'm creating that. At the moment it's a little bit warm, so I'm going to add a bit more yellow, lighten it up a bit, and that will act as the basis for our darkest value. Now the other thing we have to do is create the shadow values for the white daffodil to the far left of the picture. While you can't add white to the shadow values of a yellow object, if the object is white, then you have white in your shadow values. So I'm adding some of the neutral from the yellow one into white and mixing up both a warm and a cool neutral colour. I'm also going to add a tiny bit more blue to the cooler value to cool it down even further. Now we get to the fun bit and can add our values onto the little colour charts. Remember to clean your brush between each application. You do not want to drag one colour to the next. First of all, I put down the yellow values, working from dark to light. Now I'm going to work on my cool values, again working from dark to light. So these are the more blue toned, cooler neutrals. And then I will work on my warmer neutrals. The next band I will do are the warmer neutrals, again working from dark to light, cleaning my brush between each grid. Having filled in all the squares, it's good to just have a quick check and check that they are all the values you want them to be. I thought this cool neutral was actually a much darker neutral than I needed, so I added a lot more cadmium yellow to try and lighten it up a bit and get it closer to the warm neutral on the other side. It is perhaps still a little dark and a little green. So a handy tip is to check it against your reference photo. How close to the values on the page is it? This is a really clever way to check you're getting the right values. I'm really pleased with the warm value, but then maybe I won't use the cool value there. I also want to add a warm, really dark value. Apart from anything, it just balances the grid. but I can see it on the outer edges of the trumpet. Finally, we're ready to paint. I will start with my darkest colours or darkest values first, and for me that is the centre of the trumpet where the stamen emerges. I apply them in fairly thick blocks of colour to start with. It doesn't need to be perfect. We are not looking for a finished masterpiece. This is very much an exercise in value studies. Normally, I would say that every brushstroke has to be very much considered, but for these, the pressure of time is on and I want to get them down, and I will learn from this sketch and take it forward into my proper painting. I am now going to build up all the shadow values on my canvas. This is a very simple approach to oil painting and stops your painting getting muddy. Finally, I have the bulk of my shadows down. I'm going to start adding my lights. I start with the darkest light, again, so the painting doesn't get muddy. And with fairly broad brush strokes, I'm adding them in and filling in the rest of the canvas. You can use your medium value, and in this instance, it is pure cadmium, to block everything in. And then you can go in with the highlights on top. Because essentially you're just adding white, there is no risk, or a lighter mix of your cadmium yellow with white. There is no risk of muddying your colours. You're not adding any other colour on top. So for me this makes sense, and I just block in the remaining petals. When you've filled in your painting, it's time to move on to the background. I initially mixed up quite a dark grey-green, which you can see at the topmost part of my palette, and then I scraped it off because I wasn't sure I liked it. I then mixed up this sort of paler blue, but again, I feel it's too pale. Here I am painting on a square of the darker green, grey-green initially. Maybe a mix of both is actually what I'm after. But again, I will test it on my colour chart because how it looks on the palette is not always how it comes across on the canvas. However, it's approximately what I'm after. And so now I'm going to fill in the background. Now I've more or less finished the background, and I'll soften some of the edges and call this little practice sketch finished. They're such a great exercise before you do a big painting. It's taught me so much about the values and the tones that I need to use in my painting. For me, I think the values, I didn't need a warm and a cool value. I think I probably needed just one neutral value. They fight each other slightly in the shadows. So going forward, I'll just mix one. This is my favourite part, peeling off the masking tape. It's so satisfying to see all those little squares crisp and clean against the canvas. I hope you've enjoyed watching this and that you've learnt a little about mixing oil paints and judging your values. I have on my teaching website a still life painting of daffodils that you can do. It is also a step-by-step, very methodical painting, and you'll create your own unique original work of art, and anyone can do it. It's for any ability. I hope this exercise has really helped you. It certainly has helped me. Thanks for watching, and do please hit subscribe as it really helps me create more videos.